The same people that were looking at protesters who were saying, you know, I want to work, I don't want to be inside because of Corona. The same people who were saying, just stay inside. Right? That force is the same force that are now saying, why are you looting though? Just don't loot. These conflicts, they're not because they're two completely different energies going in two different complete different fields. There's conflict because you're the same coin, brethren. That racist, arrogant, tough guy is the same as the violently passionate, you know, Black Lives Matter person. You're just the opposite coin. And the second you can finally realize that you're fighting against your own self, that you look within yourself, and don't let these low-hanging fruits of Democrat, Republican, wish-wash dictate what you should do. You need to start here. You need to get rid of the hate in your heart, but it's hard. It's almost impossible when there's constant hate being poured on top. Right? By things you experience, by things that people tell you, by what the media portrays. On both sides. Empathy is incredibly difficult to achieve. It's a high order function. If you're in pain, if you're hungry, if you're under stress, most of us, me included, that frontal area just shuts off. And we go to that low power state, that thing that carried our ancestors through. And by ancestors, I don't even mean humans. By ancestors, I don't even mean mammals. Right? That mentality that it's me right now, I'm going to do this thing against the world. That's what got us this far. But the thing that's going to get us even further is powering up to a highest level. And it's selfish. Here we go. This is going to sound crazy, but it's selfish. To look at a white person and tell them, hey, yeah, don't do this one thing because it affects me as a black person. That's selfish. Now I understand the hypocrisy. Because is there anything more selfish than slavery? To say that I'm not doing it, I'm going to force another human being to do it. Right? It's the same force. Here we go. Same coin, same force of the white man saying to the black man, yeah, don't be so loud, or yeah, don't express yourself in that way. Don't do that. That bit affects me. Don't do that bit. You can't just look at the piece that affects you and try and change it. These pieces that affect you are emergent. The things that create them, if you see them as like the sound of tires running on the road, right? When you hear a motor going nearby, it's usually the tire friction. You can't just say, oh, just get rid of the sound. Right? You need to get rid of the friction. You need to get rid of the car. You need to get rid of the demand to travel on a regular basis. It's all woven into one another. And here's the kicker, brothers and sisters. You can't solve racism without simultaneously solving the other problems as well. You see a racist guy, okay? Let's just put the racism just on this table and separate it with his other negative traits or the other things affecting him. His father probably wasn't there for him as he should be in an ideal state. Right? His wife probably married him through social pressures or stability reasons, biological pressures. Not a great fit. Kids probably don't truly appreciate what he does for them. Debt in the house. Debt on the car. Right? We've got hedonistic desires that make you do things that will only emburden you in the future, that don't actually satisfy that true inner self. We're competitive beings. How do we compete in the past? You can see he has 10 sheep, because I see he has 10 sheep there. I have 5 sheep, I better get my act together. Now we have bank accounts. People are more likely to talk about sex, the most intimate thing that can happen between two people, unless you include murder. Sex. They'd rather talk about that than how much money they have in a bank account. So I can't see now how many sheep you have. But we're still competitive. We're still humans. We're still competing. So you compete on spending. Yeah, but look at this big car that I have. So now not only are you indebted on the car, you're indebted on a big car now. Right? Then you have the fact that they haven't looked into themselves and really asked, why am I doing things? Do I love myself? We can go on and on and on and on and add all these pressures and stresses upon this person who also happens to be racist, who then affects the black person on the other side. The black person says, or the person who's empathetic towards it, that bit is wrong. You're right. You're absolutely correct. But so is all this connected to it. You can't solve racism without solving the other problems as well. You need to start on the small level, the personal, interpersonal level, the family level, the social structure. If we didn't have DNA, we can't have classical music. We can't have cups. And every time you skip a step, you need external energy. And where does that external energy come from currently in our most productive system, which is capitalism? It comes from farmers who are basically on the borderline of death, undervaluing themselves and working for basically free, because I'd rather work in this factory than be out there tending to like 6 crops, one's dying every day, right? But as they work and they gain skill and they gain confidence and they get into that routine, their self-worth increases relative to the market. All of a sudden, that soul, that energy force that you're putting in to the overall system that's allowing this to happen for you to cut corners, because you're not addressing the core problem, skipping these steps is using the external soul force, the energy force of this farmer. Suddenly, that deal isn't as worthwhile, because that person just realised, hang on, why am I working for 1p a minute? Or 1p an hour, whatever. Now I want 2. Then I want 4. Suddenly, they want a minimum wage that's actually reasonable. And that soul force, the current, is no longer as powerful as it was. So that subsidization for skipping steps begins to wither over time. Right? That's why all these large Western civilizations, or just advanced civilizations, always focus on economic growth. The growth, the external value subsidizing their system. As long as the overall system expands, we can cover the little gaps, the nooks and crannies, right? We can make sure that someone can get counselling and a house to live off and food stamps or whatever the thing that they need, because of that external value coming in, that external force, that external energy. But where that energy is coming from isn't sustainable. So then we'll eventually go back down to the problem. So instead of all these ways of making ourselves feel better that only make the situation worse, in all these ways that the media rips us apart and makes us think that we're enemies when we're actually the same, let's find love within ourselves. Let's accept that this is a long process. Let's accept that racism is a reflection. We are based on the life system, and life is plastic to the environment. It reflects what the environment is. If the environment is hot and dry, life changes, caters to that, right? The succulents, cactus, they had leaves, but the leaves curled in on themselves. So leaves usually sweat out water, and that's how they pull the water up the stem. But if you're in a dry place, with not a lot of, hot, dry place, and you're sweating too much water, you'll dry up. So the leaves curled in and sweated upon themselves. Pause. The thing that we're based on, the life force, is adaptive to the environment. So when we see these more advanced or more complex, more nuanced levels of abstraction on top, horrible things, racism, oppression, ignorance, violence, anger, these are reflections, these are little human beings screaming out that things aren't right. Take these people that you deem to be, beyond saving, right? They're just too hateful or whatever. Take that same person and imagine they had a loving but strict father, a caring and nurturing mother, right? They went into an education system that wasn't meant to increase productivity based on an old system, right, the industrial system, but to create productivity in a advanced futuristic system, one where every individual performs on their best abilities. And you're trying to tell me in 30 years, 40 years time, that person's still going to have the same amount of hate, there's still going to be same arrogance within that person? I highly, 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 highly doubt it. See these times as a reflection of the environment. If you see a bird and it's scrawny and it's limping, and you see another one, and you see another one, is it the bird or is it the environment? Right. Peace and love, my brothers and sisters. Peace and love.